Eldridge Hollow was a ghost town. Once a bustling community, it had now fallen silent, its streets empty and its buildings crumbling. The echoes of the past seemed to linger in the air, whispering tales of a time long gone. It was a town forgotten by time. The once lively town square where children played and merchants sold their wares was now overrun with weeds and silence. The clock tower, which had once marked the hours of the day, stood frozen at a time no one could remember. The houses stood empty, windows like vacant eyes. Each home, once filled with laughter and life, now stood as a hollow shell, a mere shadow of its former self. The broken windows seemed to watch, silently mourning the loss of their inhabitants. The wind howled through the trees, sounding like a mournful cry. It carried with it the scent of decay and the whispers of forgotten memories. The dead trees, stripped of their leaves, stood like skeletal sentinels, guarding the secrets of Eldridge Hollow. No one dared to go there. The eerie silence and the oppressive atmosphere kept even the bravest souls at bay. Stories of strange occurrences and ghostly apparitions had turned Eldridge Hollow into a place of fear and superstition. No one except for Emma, Jake, Sarah and Tom. They were different. They were drawn to the unknown, to the thrill of uncovering secrets that others were too afraid to seek. They were the daring ones, the curious ones. Their friendship was built on shared adventures and a mutual love for the mysterious. They had explored many places, but Eldridge Hollow was unlike any other. Today, their curiosity would lead them to Whitmore Estate. The mansion had always been a source of fascination for them, a place they had only heard about in hushed whispers and old tales. Whitmore Estate sat on a hill overlooking the town. Its imposing structure loomed over Eldridge Hollow, a constant reminder of the town's mysterious past. It was a grand old mansion, now decaying and dilapidated. Once a symbol of wealth and power, it had fallen into disrepair, its grandeur fading with each passing year. The iron gates were rusted shut. They creaked ominously as the wind pushed against them, as if protesting the intrusion of the outside world. The gardens were overgrown with weeds. What had once been a meticulously maintained landscape was now a tangled mess of wild plants and creeping vines. The once bright paint was peeling, revealing the rotten wood beneath. The walls, which had once been a pristine white, were now a patchwork of decay and neglect. Legends whispered of the Whitmore family who had vanished from the estate, leaving no trace behind. Some said they had been cursed. Others believed they had simply disappeared into thin air. It was a place shrouded in mystery and fear. The stories of the Whitmore family had only added to the mansion's eerie reputation, making it a place of both fascination and dread. Emma, Jake, Sarah and Tom stood at the bottom of the hill. They looked up at the mansion, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. They could feel the eyes of the mansion on them. It was as if the house itself was alive, watching their every move with a silent, malevolent gaze. It was as if the house itself was watching their every move. The feeling of being observed was almost palpable, sending shivers down their spines. They knew they shouldn't be there. Every instinct told them to turn back, to leave the haunted place and never return. But they couldn't help themselves. The pull of the unknown was too strong, the allure of the mystery too enticing. They were drawn to the mystery. The secrets of Whitmore Estate called to them, promising answers to questions they hadn't even thought to ask. They had been telling ghost stories around the campfire, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. The flames crackled, casting eerie shadows on their faces, making the stories feel even more real and terrifying. The story of the Whitmore Estate was always the most frightening, a tale passed down through generations, filled with whispers of ghosts and unexplained phenomena. It sent chills down their spines, the kind that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand up. But they couldn't resist its allure, the thrill of the unknown drawing them in like moths to a flame. "I dare you all to spend the night in the mansion," Jake said suddenly, breaking the tension with a challenge that hung in the air. His voice was challenging, a hint of fear behind his bravado. Sarah shivered, the thought of the mansion sending a chill through her. "You're crazy," she breathed, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. "Yeah, no way," Tom chimed in, his voice shaky, betraying his own fear of the haunted estate. Emma, usually the bravest of the group, hesitated. The stories of the Whitmore Estate had always intrigued her, but the thought of actually spending a night there was daunting. The thought of spending the night in that eerie mansion sent a shiver down her spine, the kind that made her question her own courage. But she couldn't let Jake think she was scared. She had a reputation to uphold, and backing down wasn't an option. "Fine," she said, trying to sound confident. "Let's do it." Her voice was steady, but inside her heart raced with a mix of fear and excitement. The group exchanged glances, each one silently questioning their own bravery, but none willing to back down from the dare. The old iron gates creaked as they pushed them open. It was the sound of warning, of things long forgotten. They walked up the overgrown path to the front door, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The air grew colder as they approached the mansion. It was as if a cold breath had settled over the place. The front door groaned open, revealing a dusty and dark hallway. Cobwebs hung from every corner, dust covered every surface. The air was thick with the scent of decay. It was the smell of forgotten memories and lingering sadness. They stepped inside, their hearts pounding in their chests. The door slammed shut behind them. They were trapped. They explored the mansion with a mixture of fear and excitement. The air was thick with anticipation, every creak of the floorboards sending shivers down their spines. The mansion, with its towering spires and Gothic architecture, loomed over them like a silent guardian of secrets long forgotten. Each room they entered was colder than the last. The chill seemed to seep into their bones, making them shiver uncontrollably. Frost clung to the windows, creating intricate patterns that looked almost like ghostly faces peering in from the outside. They found a library with dusty books and a grand piano covered in cobwebs. The shelves were lined with ancient tomes, their spines cracked and faded. The piano, once a centerpiece of elegance, now stood as a relic of a bygone era, its keys silent and forgotten. In the dining room, a long, empty table seemed to stretch on forever. The chairs, draped in white sheets, looked like ghostly figures waiting for a feast that would never come. The chandelier above, though covered in dust, still held a certain grandeur, casting eerie shadows on the walls. They could almost hear the echoes of laughter and conversation from long ago. The faded portraits on the walls seemed to watch them, their eyes following every move. It was as if the spirits of the past were still present, lingering in the corners of the room. In one of the bedrooms, they found a diary hidden under a floorboard. The discovery felt like unearthing a buried treasure, a link to the mansion's mysterious past. The floorboard creaked as they pried it open, revealing the diary nestled in the dust. It was old and leather-bound, the pages brittle with age. Each page they turned felt like it could crumble at any moment, the ink faded but still legible. The diary had an aura of history, a silent witness to the events that had transpired within the mansion's walls. On the cover, etched in faded ink, were the words, Elizabeth Whitmore. The name seemed to resonate with a sense of importance, as if it held the key to understanding the mansion's secrets. It was a name that demanded attention, a name that carried weight. The name sent a chill down their spines. It was as if the very mention of Elizabeth Whitmore had awakened something within the mansion, a presence that had been dormant for years. They could feel the weight of her story pressing down on them, urging them to read on. The diary entries were filled with chilling details. Elizabeth wrote with a sense of urgency, her handwriting growing more frantic with each page. She described strange occurrences in the house, whispers in the night, and shadows that moved on their own. Elizabeth wrote about strange occurrences in the house, whispers in the night, and shadows that moved on their own. She recounted nights where she felt watched, the feeling of unseen eyes following her every move. The whispers were the worst, soft voices that seemed to come from the walls themselves. She wrote of her family's fear and her own growing terror. The once lively household had become a place of dread, each family member retreating into their own corners, trying to escape the inexplicable horrors that plagued them. Elizabeth's words painted a picture of a family on the brink of despair. The final entry was a desperate plea for help. Elizabeth's handwriting was almost illegible, her fear palpable through the ink. She begged for someone to understand, to believe her, to save her from the darkness that had consumed her home. It ended abruptly, leaving them with a sense of dread. The final words trailed off, as if Elizabeth had been interrupted, her story left unfinished. The silence that followed was deafening, the weight of her unspoken words hanging in the air. They closed the diary, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. As night fell, the mansion came alive. They heard whispers coming from the shadows. Floorboards creaked upstairs when no one was there. The shadows seemed to dance and swirl, taking on menacing shapes. Sarah was the first to break. "I can't take it anymore," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This place is creepy." Tom nodded in agreement. "Let's just get out of here." But Emma and Jake were determined to stay. They wanted to uncover the truth about the Whitmore estate. They wanted to know what had happened to the family. They wanted to face their fears. They were in the living room, huddled around a flickering candle. Suddenly the candle went out, plunging them into darkness. A cold wind swept through the room, making them shiver, and then they saw it. A translucent figure hovered in the darkness. It was a woman, dressed in a long flowing gown. Her face was pale and sorrowful, her eyes filled with a deep sadness. "Leave this place," the ghostly figure whispered, her voice a mournful sigh. "This house is cursed. You are in danger." The friends were paralyzed with fear. They had never seen anything like it before. The ghostly apparition vanished as quickly as it had appeared. The friends were left in darkness, their hearts pounding in their chests. They knew they had to get out of the mansion, now. They stumbled through the dark, their fear propelling them forward. They ran through the hallways, their footsteps echoing in the silence. They could hear the ghostly whispers following them, urging them to leave. They finally reached the front door, but it wouldn't open. It was as if something was holding it shut. They pushed and shoved, but the door wouldn't budge. They were trapped. Finally, with a desperate burst of strength, Jake managed to break the lock. The door swung open, and they tumbled out into the night. They ran until they couldn't run anymore. They collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. They didn't stop running until they were safely away from the mansion, away from the town of Eldridge Hollow. They never spoke of that night again, but they could never forget the terror they had experienced. They could never forget the ghostly figure of Elizabeth Whitmore. The Whitmore Estate still stands on the hill overlooking the town of Eldridge Hollow. It is a constant reminder of the horrors that the friends faced. Some say that the ghost of Elizabeth Whitmore still haunts the mansion, searching for peace. Others say that the mansion itself is cursed, trapping anyone who dares to enter. One thing is certain, the secrets of Whitmore Estate remain unsolved.